It has been a rough month for my houseplants. I've been battling thrips in my collection for the first time. And in general, I mean, we're also going into winter, which is not the most ideal circumstance for plants because they're having to adapt to lower humidity and not as much light. And yeah, it's just not a great time. I'm sort of on the struggle bus, and my plants are also sort of on the struggle bus, which is not ideal. But you know, we are pressing on and doing our best. That being said, I try to do kind of a walkthrough of my plants at least once every season. And I think the last one that I did was like an end of summer walkthrough where, you know, it's not like a full plant tour or anything, but it's just talking about whatever updates I have about certain plants. I'm kind of reviewing how things are doing, what I need to do in my collection, that sort of thing. So if you're interested in that, join me for this video because that's what we're gonna do. And yeah, the last one that I did was an end of summer update. Obviously, it's pretty much the end of fall now. I would say we are pushed into winter a little bit aggressively here in Ohio. The weather was pretty consistently like in the 50s for a while, like most of November. And then all of a sudden that last week of November hit and we were in like 20-degree weather that felt like 10-degree weather with the wind chill. And I was not ready for it. And now we're in December and it is just, yeah, there's no end in sight. This is how it's going to be. But yeah, without further ado, please join me in reviewing my plants and seeing how we're doing. But again, fair warning, I think it's a little bit rough. Just a little bit. We're already in my bedroom. This is my corner with my greenhouse cabinet. Not all of the plants in there, but most of them are doing okay. Although, so I don't have thrips in my greenhouse cabinet, but I have had like mealies here and there, mealy bugs just like popping up. It'll just be like one on one plant, on one leaf. And then like, you know, I squash it and I've been treating them and stuff. And then it's like, oh, another one will pop up and then another. And then I'll finally get, I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like if thrips weren't enough in my collection, I'm dealing with mealy bugs in my cabinet. And thankfully, like, I mean, it's not a crazy infestation. I'm handling it, but it's just annoying. It's like, where are you guys coming from? Like, anyway. Just so that you can get a cursory look, this is kind of how the cabinet is looking. I did recently kind of do a video where I was cleaning out the cabinet and rearranging things, and it's still doing okay, but honestly, the cabinet gets dirty so fast because of all the stuff going on in there. There's dead leaves and dust and dirt that ends up spilling all over the place. So it is what it is, but that's just kind of what happens. I also definitely added a couple more plants in here, so it's a little bit crowded. Not ideal, but I'm just running out of room for my plants, guys. It's a little bit sad. I guess we can start with my Monstera Adansonii albo variegata. It's not looking ideal. This is one of the plants that I keep spotting mealy bugs on, and if you remember, I did chop this in a video recently, and I have propagations. Part of the reason I chopped it was that it had gone fully white, and so I was needing to try to salvage that situation and make it not all white because, you know, I want both green and white happening for somewhat obvious reasons. I mean, if you know anything about variegation, you want to have both colors, you know? And so it did shoot out a new growth point up here, and it does have a smidgen of white in the corner, and the leaf itself is mostly green, but I'm glad that there is at least a little bit of white variegation that came off of this growth point. But obviously, as you can see, like this leaf is looking so rough, and I don't know if that's because I chopped it and it just needs to figure itself out, or if it's really unhappy because of the mealy bugs. It might honestly be like a little bit of all of the above. I think that the mealy bugs really targeted the new growth here, which is annoying, but I've also found that Monstera and Philodendron, like that first new leaf that they put out, tends to be really wonky. So if I'm being honest, I'm probably gonna end up chopping this one off. I'm just glad that a growth point activated, you know, because I was a little bit concerned that that wasn't going to happen with this plant. That just gives me hope for the future. And then I do have other, oh, let's not do that. I do have other variegated Monstera Adansonii cuttings, as you can see. Just a few. Let's see, there's these and this one. I feel like I have another one somewhere, but maybe it is just these two. I don't know. This, as you can see, does have new growth. It's mainly white, but it does look like there's a little bit of green on it, so fingers crossed. And this, yeah, there's roots here, so that's nice. But I'll have to look into consolidating everything. Yeah, see, this is like kind of yellowing a little bit. It just looks sickly. I don't know. But at least there's roots, so that gives me hope. I don't see a growth point in here yet, so I don't know. That whole situation I will have to address later. Honestly, I'm probably not going to really think about it until closer to the springtime. Yeah, that's going to be a whole project there to revive this plant and get it back in the direction that it was before. Because for a while, it was honestly so beautiful and perfect. But then, yeah, things turned on me. So this is one of my beautiful plants that I got from my friend Natalie, and it's got new growth. It's a variegated Hoya obovata, which I love. But yeah, I'm obsessed with the fact that it's already growing for me. I believe this is in like a perlite and fluval strata mixture. I believe it looks like that's what it was propagated in. But very soon here, I would love to go through and repot those and get them into soil, just because soil is my preferred medium. Yeah, over here, I threw in a couple of other Hoyas in here that weren't in here before. So my, oh gosh, Hoya lacunosa royal flush, I believe this is what this is, and my Hoya shepherdii. And I don't know, I just threw them in here because they had kept on getting unpotted by my kids. I think because they're a little bit top heavy, so my kids would like knock them down, and then yeah, that happened repeatedly. So I felt like the root systems were not ideal, so I stuck them in the cabinet. And look at that. They've started growing much better root systems that are just happier. I think that they're really enjoying the high humidity, so I just kind of wanted to give them a little bit of a boost because they didn't seem to be doing well for a little while. Now they're growing roots, and I'm assuming new growth will also come with that. And I would love to get these, you know, once they get a lot more rooted in there, I'd love to get them into more proper pots rather than like little plastic cups, you know. But this right here, so this is an alocasia dragon scale that I grew from corm. I'm very excited about this because my mama dragon scale is not doing well, like at all. Although, I mean, this leaf looks a little bit, it looks like it's just been over watered. Like maybe I've just kept this sphagnum moss too moist, where it just like, it looks a little bit like there's too much water even in the leaf. It's a little bit weird looking. But in general, I mean, look at those roots. That looks so nice. I'm definitely happy to have this as a backup because like I mentioned, you'll see later, my dragon scale alocasia is not happy. So yeah, maybe I will replace her with this or combine the two plants. I don't know. This right here, okay, oh my goodness. This Syngonium strawberry milk is finally really taking off. For a long time, it was just like 1 or 2 leaves, but right now it's got 5 leaves and it's looking pretty good. Like I'm happy with it. Some of these leaves are a little bit funny though, the way that they're growing. Like look at that. I wonder if it's like a lighting thing. Probably, it's my guess. I don't know, with it being in the greenhouse cabinet, but. And then over here, is there anything happening with my Anthurium villaneorum? For a while, it was putting off new growth left and right like crazy. I can't tell if that's a growth point or not, but I think right now it's just sort of resting. Alocasia cuprea has continued to do pretty well. Oh, although these leaves are caught here. See, we're a little bit crammed over here. In general, this plant has been doing very well and putting off lots of new leaves. So the most recent leaf it gave me, I think was this one maybe? Or no, it was this one. This was the most recent leaf and that's so pretty. I love it. I'm obsessed with the new leaves on this plant. Like look at how big this one is. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Obviously like this plant kind of grows in a funny way. Part of that could be that it's in the cabinet and it's confused by all of the light sources. So I don't know if I want it to be in the cabinet for forever because I feel like it gets a little bit cramped in there. But this is one of the plants that has been getting mealybugs every so often. And I think that is like a mealybug cluster right there that I'm gonna need to take care of. Which, yeah, it's annoying. I just get them every so often. They just pop up on this plant. But look at that root system. Isn't that beautiful? This is a no drainage. And honestly, it's loving no drainage. For the longest time, my Alocasia cuprea was on the struggle bus. But right now, it's actually doing pretty well. Even if it's like a little bit funny. I need to just address that. Maybe get it like a higher stake so that I can stake it up a little bit more up here. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. All right, this is my Alocasia Adora Okinawa Silver Variegated. I think it's a little bit of a mouthful, but it has a new leaf. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. I love this plant so much. There's a little bit of yellowing on the edge here, which concerns me because I'm like, is that thrip damage? But I don't see any signs of thrips, and I haven't seen any signs of thrips anywhere in my cabinet really. So I'm just praying that that's not the case. But in general, yeah, it's doing really well. It's rooting up in this no drainage situation super well, and this new leaf is really cute. And yeah, this was on my favorites list for November. So yeah, it's still honestly thriving. I didn't say anything about my Epiprimnum Shangri-La. It is okay. Like, I feel like it's been losing a lot of leaves, but then it grows with more leaves, so I'm just hoping that like it's still kind of figuring itself out. This is another plant that I've seen some mealy bugs pop up on, which is annoying, but it is what it is. I've just been treating them as I see them. Okay, I'm actually so pleased with this. This is a random Pink Princess propagation. If you don't know, like, I completely disassembled my previous Pink Princess, and I used to have a ton of these propagations lying around. Now I just have this propagation, and I have one more water propagation, and honestly, look at that. I'm really pleased with how the variegation is turning out on this Pink Princess, and there's some new growth happening here and here. It's honestly thriving a lot. It's just in sphagnum moss right now. Now, I don't know for sure whether or not I want to really try with this plant again because I've been scarred in the past, but frankly, I mean, these leaves right here are really pretty, so I'm hoping that it continues to put out growth like this. Let's see, these are some more Hoyas. Hoya finlaysonii, which was also from Natalie, which I will need to pot up pretty soon. It hasn't done anything crazy new. I don't think. It's just hanging in there. Oh, this is a peperomia that I still need to pot up. But it's like that peperomia raindrop. And for the longest time it was doing awful, but now it's actually putting off some new leaves. And it's just cute. It just kind of hangs out in this corner. And my Hoya calistophylla is just looking beautiful. I don't think there has been any new growth. It went through like a growth explosion a couple months ago, but it's just sort of settled down now, which is fine. I mean, it's looking really pretty, but oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Mealy bugs. Mealy bugs. I'm gonna set that aside and also treat that. See, they just like pop up every so often, just a couple of them. Anyway, up here, let's see, this is my Syngonium Frosted Heart, also from Natalie. This one is honestly doing quite well. It has a little bit of a new growth coming in right there. It's not like rooting into the pole or anything like that, but this is my first Syngonium. I'm like trying to grow up a moss pole. It's a little bit different than the podophyllum varieties, but it's really, really pretty. Oh my goodness. This is my Velvet Halomycans, which has completely grown off the pole, and I need to figure this plant out. I mean, it's beautiful, some of those leaves. But a lot of the plants that I have on moss poles, I'm just so behind on moss pole maintenance. It's a little bit ridiculous and exhausting. But at least the leaves are really pretty. Let's see. Okay. Oh my gosh, this plant. So this is my Hoya Wilbur Graves China, I believe. I got it as a tiny cutting, and it's been giving me so many new leaves. It was like a one leaf cutting. And look at these 4 new leaves it's given me. Aren't those so cute? It's honestly loving it. Just hanging out up here. And my Hoya linearis is also hanging out right here. I'm not really seeing a lot of new growth on here. It's just sort of stagnated, which I think has happened a lot for me over the winter, although there is some new growth at the top. I am concerned that it's going to be like a little bit too much light with this grow light because it's right up there. So it's a little bit bleached, I think. But the rest of it, I mean, it looks pretty. And I also have some propagations from my Hoya linearis that I'll probably try to pot in. Some of the strands died off, as you can see, but most of it is doing okay, and there's some roots. I feel like my variegated string of hearts was doing better a few months ago, but lately, I mean, it just looks a little bit sickly to me. I don't know. It just doesn't look as nice as it did earlier, and I'm trying to figure out why that is. Like, see? It's like losing some leaves. I'm wondering if it has mealy bugs hiding in here, and that's what's doing it. I don't know. but it doesn't look perfect. I don't know, it has something going on that I need to investigate. Okay, my anthurium have continued to generally not do so hot. This is my anthurium forgetii dark form. I recently trimmed off one of the leaves that just was looking awful. But as you can see, there's a lot of yellowing. It just doesn't look pretty. And it hasn't given me a new leaf in a while, which is concerning. I did recently water it. It looks like I have an inflow coming in right here, which I'm like, come on, I want a new leaf, not an inflow. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens with this. I'm just continuing to love on it. I'm wondering if it wants to be repotted. My anthurium don't seem to like to be root bound. Like they just stop growing when they're root bound, so I don't know. But I feel like I repotted it kind of recently. So this one is doing well though. This is my, it's a mouthful every time I say it. Anthurium crystallinum crossed with Doriaki crossed with luxurians. Yeah, it's like 3 different plants in here. This one leaf is dying off, but it's the oldest leaf. But these 3 leaves right here, oh my goodness, they look stunning. And it does look like it's actually giving me some new growth right here, but it's like leaning a lot. I think I need to either get like a pot extender or just pot it in a deeper pot. I found that anthurium will do this sometimes. See that? It's like a little bit unstable. So yeah, I just need to address that. This plant is also not doing that great, and it's so sad because for the longest time it was doing wonderfully, but right now it is not. It's not happy with me. This is my anthurium crystallinum crossed with capillanimum, and it has not given me new growth in a long time, which is concerning. It's very concerning. Don't like it. I mean, I watered it recently. I think it just doesn't like its pot. I think that there are a lot of air pockets in here, and maybe it doesn't like that. Maybe it's getting, honestly, it kind of looks like it might be getting root rot. So I need to unpot this and address whatever the heck is going on with this plant. I've considered putting it into no drainage to see if that will help it be happier. But yeah, it's just not happy with me right now. And that's been the case the last couple of months. These 2 anthurium have just not been happy with me, which is so sad. I love those plants, and for the longest time they were doing great. But right now, not the case. Okay. This is my Hoya undulata, which I love this plant so much. Oh my goodness. It's been stable, which is comforting to me because I was very concerned that this plant would not do well in my care, but it's just been chilling in the cabinet, doing pretty well. It hasn't like given me a ton of new growth or anything. It looks very stable, which is great. This is my philodendron serpent, and it's a baby, and I've had it for ages, and it has looked like this, like a baby for the longest time, but it looks happy. I think this is new growth right here, so I just want this to finally take off and not be a baby anymore. Right here, this is my Alocasia Frydek, which has also had a couple of mealy bugs pop on it occasionally, but I mean, nothing crazy is happening with this plant. It's still growing, it's still chilling, but I am wondering if maybe it needs to be repotted soon. Again, I found my Alocasia and my anthurium in particular are very sensitive to like getting root bound. Like they don't seem to like it. So if they get root bound, they kind of throw a hissy fit until I get that resolved. So I think a lot of these plants, potentially I need to investigate the roots, make sure they're not root bound. But anyway, let's get all these back in the cabinet and move on. As for these plants on top of the cabinet, I don't feel like there's anything super notable going on. I definitely need to address my Philodendron campus borduanum, figure out the pole situation because it's like kind of growing all over the place, which I mean, that's my fault because of the way I potted it up with so many cuttings, but I just need to extend the pole and pin more of these in place, I guess, and see what happens. This plant is perpetually unwell. It's my Scindapsus pictus argyrius, and yeah, I need to figure out something. It always seems thirsty too, so maybe I need to take it out of the terracotta and investigate that. Over here, I don't know, nothing new is really happening with these plants. This is the other pink princess propagation that I have going that also has some pretty fantastic looking variegation, which I'm very happy about, and it's got plenty of roots in there. I need to top off the water though. Okay, this plant My freaking Monstera siltepecana. Its leaves are always dying. I checked it for thrips too, because I was like, does this plant have thrips? I mean, that's honestly every single plant in my collection. I'm always like, does this one have thrips? Does this one have mealybugs? Is this one freaking out? I don't know. But this one, it just, what is this? I'm sorry, excuse me? What is going on here? I did semi-recently take some cuttings of this plant. I have some propagations going, so I will pot them back up here. But at this point, I'm kind of just tempted to just completely chop all of these off. They're so unsightly. And I love Monstera siltepecana, and for a while, I actually had a season where it was doing well for me. Not so right now. This plant, wow. I think I might need to repot this again kind of soon here. This, oh my gosh, it's so heavy, and it has so much growth. Look at this. Look at this group right here. These are all so clustered close together. It's got new growth here, although another freaking mealybug. This plant is also dealing with mealybugs right now. So I'm gonna set that aside, and probably gross I'm doing that with my fingers, but you know, I'm honestly desensitized to pests at this point. I'm just like, whatever. Okay, but like, look at, it's like busting out of the pot a little bit with this growth right here. It is beautiful. It's kind of going crazy. It's got lots of new leaves, but yeah, it does have a few mealybugs here and there. But look, there's a new leaf too. Did I say what this was? It's my Stromanthe Trio Star. I mean, this plant hated me for a while. Look at that, more. Ugh, it did have spider mites at one point. Now it just has some mealies that are just kind of perpetually popping up. So this is another plant I'm treating all the time. But definitely, I mean, like it's even got like new growth right here that's trying to pop up. It's like underneath the soil. Honestly, I love the way that these plants grow. It's so fascinating because it just sends out, what is it called? Rhizomatic growth, like underneath the plant, and then it like pops up later. Like it goes like through the soil. I don't know. It's really cool though. And it's beautiful. Look at that. Oh my gosh, stunning. It's growing so well. It just sometimes battles pests. And so I just need to perpetually treat it. So I'm going to set that aside. Also treat it later. Other than that, I mean, I don't think anything special is going on over here. So let's move on to the plants in this little corner and rearrange the grow light so it's more on them. I recently moved my Begonia maculata whitey here. And since I feel like it's giving me like a little bit of new growth. Like I think this is a new leaf maybe, but it has not. Oh, and look, there's new growth right here. Okay, I do think that it's much happier here because it is actually growing a little bit. As you can see, it was in a rough shape for a while. And you guys, yeah, begonias have not been liking me recently because I recently lost another begonia, my begonia aerial. Yeah, they just have not been liking me. So I don't know if it's like a humidity thing or if I've stopped watering them enough. I don't know. But I might investigate the root system and unpot this eventually because it looks a little bit compacted down here. So yeah, I'm just gonna need to maybe do a little bit of a makeover with this plant at some point. I don't know. I don't think there's anything new happening with this Hoya chicken farm since I moved it here. My Atabapoense, this is the most recent leaf it gave me, like somewhat recently, and it has a new leaf coming. But of course, as you'll see with pretty much all of my moss poles right now, yeah, it needs an extension. I'm gonna need to do like a whole video on that. My Ring of Fire has a new leaf coming in right there, although the last leaf it gave me kind of broke in two, which is not ideal. So yeah, my Varicosum has been doing like, sometimes like it's growing a lot, as you can see up here too. Yeah, moss pole extension I need to do that. Honestly, I need to probably completely undo this, propagate it, and restart it over again. It's kind of gotten to that point, but yeah, occasionally some of the leaves will die off or just like look really unsightly. So I usually just trim those off. I've been worried about like this plant having a pest, but I've been looking at it all the time and I don't generally see pests on this plant. Like maybe one mealybug once in a blue moon I've seen, but I've checked it a lot. And you know, it's pretty, but I think it could look prettier. Like it's really barren right here. Yeah, I don't know. I just need to address it as well. And same story for my Philodendron gigas. Oh my goodness, I love this plant so much. It has given me so many beautiful leaves, but yeah, I'm slacking on the moss bowl maintenance department, which yeah, honestly, A lot of the plants that need moss poles, like in my plant room, have thrips, or I have seen thrips on them. Honestly, treating the thrips has thrown me for a loop and made me kind of fall behind on other aspects of plant care, which is frustrating. You know, catching up on repotting and catching up on moss pole maintenance. It's been tough to really think about anything other than treating for thrips. So a lot of things have been put on hold, but oh, there's a new leaf coming in on this alocasia. This is an alocasia macrorrhiza camouflage. And look at that. This was actually a plant that had like the worst mealybug infestation I've ever seen, but I have not seen any mealybugs on it again recently. So that's good, at least. But yeah, I'm constantly checking my plants for thrips, like constantly. Thankfully, I haven't seen any in my bedroom, but yeah, it's so annoying. Anthurium crystallinum has also just like not really been growing. Like I don't see any new growth over there, so it's a little bit sad, but it's okay. It's okay. Honestly, I mean, it's winter time, so a lot of my plants are also just kind of going dormant, so I should expect that and get used to that as well. Okay, this is the room where the worst of the thrips outbreak has been, but it's mostly in that corner of the room. Over here, I mean, I check these plants like every single day and I haven't seen any thrips. Like, I'm most concerned about my philodendron Florida Ghost right here because I think that philodendron tend to be maybe a little bit more prone to thrips than other plants. Not necessarily, but yeah, philodendron and monstera, I think they tend to get the most issues with that pest. Yeah, as you can see, I have a couple of plants down here that are not normally here. I had to move them because we brought in our Christmas tree. So these are kind of here temporarily. I would rather not put them in this room because of the thrip situation, but I just didn't. I was like, at least they're in this corner. And I think it's mainly under control. Like I don't have a crazy infestation. Just as like kind of an update to the thrips, I have seen just like one pop up. Like since I started treating them, I'll spot like one or two pop up on different plants occasionally. And I just like treat them, wipe them away. I have like systemic going on nearly all of the plants in my collection. I'm checking everything daily, treating, you know, once every few days with Captain Jack's and with my bioinsecticide and stuff like that. So I've been really intentional with treating for my thrips and I haven't seen them a ton. Just like I said, I'll see them every so often, like one or two I've spotted on new plants. So, you know, I saw one of my white princess downstairs, which was really frustrating because then I was like, okay, well now I have to treat all my plants that are downstairs. And yeah, but other than that, in general, I feel like it's mainly under control. I'm just paranoid and I will continue to be paranoid and continue to treat them. Probably, honestly, if I'm being honest, I'm probably gonna treat them all winter long. Hi, buddy. These plants are just hanging out over here. My Syndapsis Trubia Moonlight has not had anything exciting happening with it for a while now. Yeah, it had mealybugs for a while. It's over that. But yeah, the leaves that it's been giving me lately have been really small, just like this. If it grows at all, or it puts off runners. So it's a little bit frustrating. I'm wondering if maybe I need to put it in a situation that has more light because it's currently, so obviously it's here right now, but normally it's in a corner in the living room that, you know, it's like offset from a west facing window, but it's not getting direct light. It's very indirect. So maybe it just wants more light. But yeah, this plant was kind of annoying me for a long time. And now I feel like we're finally approaching like, okay, are you gonna behave again now that you don't have mealybugs? I mean, I don't know. And then this Monstera Peru, the last video that I released was like a plant makeover video, and I'm so happy with this plant still. It's continuing to put off some new growth. So look at that, that's a new leaf. Oh my gosh, I love the fresh leaves and the texture and like the shininess of it with this plant. It's so fun. And I'm really excited to be growing it in a new way because it was growing up a pole before and now it's more bushy and I'm just excited about that. And speaking of the makeover video, this is my Hoya Velosa that I also made over. And maybe I was like a little bit harsh during that video. It did not turn out exactly the way that I wanted it to. And frankly, it probably needs a trellis, but I'm just resistant to that because I don't really love trellises that much for Hoya for some reason. It has a lot of wonky growth going on, as you can see. but it's stable. And the part of the plant that I was worried was getting dry rot, it's totally fine now, it seems. So yeah, it's hanging in there. And I started treating it for flat mites again, but I probably, like once I discovered thrips in my collection, this sort of hit the back burner and I kind of stopped worrying about the flat mite situation with it, but I should probably address that again. And I don't know for sure that it has flat mites. I haven't like taken a microscope to it or anything, which I probably should, but some of the growth that has come in is wonky, which has made me suspicious about flat mites with it. So I don't know, but yeah, like it's not as bad as I was thinking it was, but it is a little bit of a flop just because the makeover that I did didn't quite go the way that I planned it to or expected it to. And I don't like that all the leaves are like different sizes. I don't know. With Hoya, I tend to prefer them to be more uniform than that, I think. They're just feeding off of the Grove grow light a little bit and the south facing window a little bit. It's just an easy spot to put them in the meantime. But moving along, I don't know. I mean, honestly, like all the plants that are down here have just been stable. Like I don't feel like there's anything new going on. So I feel that a lot of these plants are pretty dormant. I'm gonna need to repot these Hoya as well. I also got them in the plant trade. Hi, buddy. This holiday cactus is growing. There's a little bit of new growth, but yeah, like nothing new or crazy is really happening over here. I think this looks like new growth here on my Huernia zebrina, but like nothing super notable. And then same for up here, like nothing crazy is happening with these plants. And yeah, my Florida Ghost, it's had like this leaf technically on the way for a while now, but it has not done anything with it. So I'm just sort of waiting for something to happen with this plant. And okay, you guys, I actually am really bummed though, because I had taken some cuttings of this plant hoping to, you know, pot more in here. But those cuttings were completely destroyed by the thrips, which is so disconcerting actually. I had to get rid of most of them. There's one remaining that I'm pretty sure is still a goner, but I'm still kind of trying. But yeah. And then this is the alocasia dragon scale I was talking about. You saw earlier I chopped off a leaf that was not looking good. The root system looks good, but this keeps on getting mealy bugs popping up on it, and I think that might have root mealies or something, because right now it's down to 2 leaves. And if you don't know, I mean, it was honestly thriving and so happy earlier. There is a massive corm right here that I can see. So like, I know it's still doing things, but is from a leaf perspective, maybe it's just going dormant or like freaking out because of the mealybug situation that I can't seem to get rid of as much as I'm trying. But I mean, alocasia in winter, I don't really expect them to do very much. They tend to go dormant, but still, I don't like it. It doesn't make me happy. It does not spark joy that it's not doing well, but at least I've got the corms that are sprouting, and maybe I can combine them in the summertime or the spring or whatever. Okay, this is the corner that had the most thrips. My philodendron mame is still up in the attic, and I still kind of have it quarantined, mainly because I didn't want all the plants to be like right up on each other like the way that they were before. But I did bring my Monstera albo and philodendron dark lord back down. These two, if you don't know, had a lot of thrips. I did spot at least a couple of thrips on my splendid and on my philodendron painted lady and on my Gypertia zebrina. Like those were some other plants that I actually physically saw thrips on. But yeah, I have thoroughly treated all of these plants like all the time, honestly. But yeah, like there's no new growth happening with my Monstera albo or any of the plants that had thrips. I mean, that's to be expected because they're very unhappy with that circumstance. But yep, there's some of that thrips damage right there, and it's really sad. But thankfully I haven't been seeing any more pop up. So, you know, it's fine. It's very discouraging that it happened on some of my favorite plants. Philodendron splendid is another plant that I really need to address when it comes to the moss pole. I mean, it's grown right off. My friend Natalie actually sent me some really long, wonderful moss poles that I want to try. So I will eventually do a video with that. But again, like I said before, the fact that I have thrips, it makes me feel like I can't really do anything else with my plants until I figure out the thrip situation. At least there's some new growth on my philodendron fuzzy petiole, even though this plant has not been doing what I want it to do recently. And it looks like there is some new growth on this El Choco red that, yeah, I think thrips destroyed the few leaves that it had on here, but it's not completely dead, so that's good. Okay, look at this new growth happening right here. This is my Epipremnum pinnatum elbow variegata, and I do love how much it is like clung to this wooden pole here. It's honestly great. I love this plant so much, and it's beautiful. Thankfully, I have not seen any thrips on it, but I've also treated it pretty thoroughly, and I need to figure out what I'm gonna have to do with it because it's reaching the top of the pole, obviously, so that's gonna be another thing that I'm gonna need to address eventually. With my Dark Lord, so many of the leaves got destroyed by thrips, which is frustrating. I have been through so much crap with this plant. There is a new leaf coming in right here. So, I mean, great, right? But like, I am so tempted to just chop this plant up. I was halfway tempted to chuck it because this plant had the worst infestation of thrips of all of the plants that had thrips. But I might just chop it and start over again. But again, I feel like I can't really do that until I'm certain that the thrips are gone. I don't know. Or maybe that's just the way to go, you know, like chuck the rest of the plant tissue. I haven't fully decided exactly what I want to do with it. But this plant, I've been through so much with this plant. All I want is a big, beautiful Philodendron Dark Lord of my dreams, and I have not been granted that yet. So I don't know. We've been wrestling for literal years. It's ridiculous. Is there anything interesting? Okay, actually, I will say this is my Syngonium erythrophyllum, and I think that it did have some thrips. I didn't actually see any thrips on this plant, but I just chopped off a bunch of leaves that were looking like they were dying off, and I'm pretty sure they were dying because of thrips. But since I trimmed it and I've been watering it and treating it, you know, it was looking rough for a little while, for a couple months, but like right now it's kind of, she's in a beautiful era right now. Like she's kind of stunning. Like, do you see how nice and full and beautiful she looks? And she's got some new leaves. So despite the thrip situation, she's at least looking really pretty. So I'll take that. She's looking like the prettiest that she's looked in a long while, if I'm being honest. I've also got some new growth on my jewel orchid, which is a happy thing. And I haven't seen thrips on this one either, but obviously it's been close to all of the thrips, so I've been treating it as well. Same story for my Alocasia Adora variegata. Aria variegata or whatever. It's the yellow variegated version. I haven't seen thrips on this one, but yeah, I think I might need to also repot this Alocasia. Like all my Alocasia need to be repotted, I feel. Down here, this is a new leaf from my Gapertia zebrina, despite the thrips. Again, like at least it's growing. And my Maranta Kerchobiana variegata has a few leaves that look nice, but a lot of the leaves look kind of bleached out. So I did move it recently into a lower light situation, and I'm hoping that that's working. But like obviously with all the thrips and stuff, I didn't see any thrips physically on this plant, but based on how some of the growth has been behaving, I'm wondering if it did get thrips. I don't know. I don't really know. Same story for my painted lady. I saw thrips on this newest leaf that I destroyed, but then it put out another leaf that was completely deformed, I think because of the thrips. But now at least it has new growth happening here. But again, I need to address this moss pole. What else is new, right? I still love my lemon lime Maranta hanging here. It's beautiful, and I think it loves it because look at this new leaf that it's putting out. That's gonna be a huge leaf. Oh my gosh, I think it is really quite happy here, which makes me happy. And I don't know that anything new is happening. This is my Hoya Matilde, but it hasn't really put off new growth in a while. It's sort of been stagnant. Same for my Hoya Crimson Princess here. It's just kind of chilling. Like it's pretty, but it's also not really growing that much. Let's see. Ooh. I have to take this plant down. This is my Anthurium vitarifolium, and thankfully it has been unaffected by the thrips. I think this is the newest leaf that it put out. The bottom portion looks a little bit sus. But I have not spotted any thrips. It looks like there is some new growth. Excuse me. I think there is some new growth happening here, but not a lot because of the winter time, I'm assuming. But yeah, some of these leaves are pretty cool looking. I do love this plant so much. And I don't know that this is like the best spot ever for it. It is a spot that works. So I guess I'm gonna let it stay here for a while yet. It is really pretty up there, not gonna lie. I'm just worried that it doesn't get quite enough light. And then over here in this little corner, I think I need to water this plant again. It's my Monstera adansonii, just my regular one. And it's putting off some new growth, which is encouraging. I actually very recently put this here. I actually previously had my Philodendron brantianum here, but I'm just about done with that plant. I'm not quite giving up, but I'm very close to it. And so I needed a spot to put my Monstera adansonii, so I just switched them out, and I think it likes this spot. Like, it doesn't get too much light, but it gets just enough. I think that my Hoya Crimson Queen looks gorgeous, but I don't think it's really growing that much for me right now. This is a plant that definitely grows in spurts. Like, it will grow a ton all at once and then it'll like chill out for a while. Staghorn fern is doing okay. Like, it has a bunch of little fronds here that are dying off that I need to pick off. But like, all this right here is new growth, and right here this is new growth too. So like, it's growing for me. And look, there's more new growth right there. Yeah, so like, that's encouraging. It is growing, but it's also has some leaves that are dying at the same time, which like I'm okay with. These are more propagations that I need to handle soon. Yeah, this is my Monstera siltibacana propagation, so at least I have more of the plant to work with later when I want to make it over. And then my Thai constellation, I fear that it needs to be repotted yet again because this plant is ridiculous. Like, the roots grow like crazy and it'll put off like 1 or 2 leaves each time you repot it, but then like it'll stop putting off leaves because it gets root bound and it doesn't want to grow anymore. What the heck, dude? Let me know if you've had that experience as well, because I don't want to have to repot this plant again. Like, I like the pot that it's in and I repotted it less than a year ago, so I don't know, but it's just sort of stopped growing. It could also be a winter thing though. But I was really sad. As you can see right here, there's a leaf missing, and that is because one of my children bumped into the plant and the leaf snapped off, and I was very sad about that. Actually, let's take a peek up in the attic because I've got some things going on. Don't mind, it's a mess up here because this is where we're doing all of our gift wrapping for Christmas, so like, yeah. But let's look in this planty corner. This is the Philodendron brantianum that looks awful, and then I'm just about ready to just be done with. I don't have the heart quite yet to get rid of it, but honestly, it's just up here until I muster the courage. My Philodendron Summer Glory just put off a new leaf, and as you know, oh my gosh, the new leaves are so beautiful. I just love the color so much. And in general, yeah, it's looking nice up here. This is a south-facing window, so it gets tons of light. I really need to water this Monstera in this corner. This is another plant that I like it here. I think it's beautiful, but part of me is wondering if I should give it away to someone else because I do have another Monstera deliciosa downstairs and I don't really like need to have 2 of them. These plants take up so much space. But yeah, I do need to address it again. I need to water it and kind of trim some of the leaves. I mean, look at how limp that is. It's so bad. It's also a little bit chilly up here. It's more like 60 degrees or so rather than, you know, the 70 degrees of downstairs. So, you know, the plants, I think that this plant in particular like doesn't, it's just not a fan of the winter time up here. But okay, this is where I brought my Philodendron mame, and as you can see, this leaf, it was thrip ridden and it's totally like dying off now, so I just need to chop it off. This is the other remaining leaf. Guys, if I'm being honest, I am completely heartbroken. And look, this new growth is also looking really bad now too. I am completely heartbroken about my Philodendron mame getting thrips. Like, I am heartbroken and I can't really dwell on it very much because if I do, it guts me a bit because this is one of my absolute favorite plants in my collection and it just got completely ravaged, and it was in such a vulnerable spot because I did so recently like chop it up and everything. I'll have to put in clips of it at its like height of its glory, and I want to get back to that spot so badly, and I was getting close to it because it was like I had to chop it up because it was reaching, you know, it had completely crawled through the entire pot. So I chopped it up and then it started declining a lot and then it perked back up and it was doing fine, but then the thrips situation attacked, and now I feel like we're going to start from square one. The one saving grace is that I do have another Philodendron mame over here, and it does have a new leaf, so like it's fine. But this was like the runt cutting, like this was the part of the cutting that like did not look good like at all, and I kept it as a backup, so I'm very glad that I did. I did have a third mame plant that I actually gave away to a friend, which I do not regret. Like, that's a great thing to do. But yeah, this plant might end up becoming my like main mame plant, especially. Frankly, I think I might just need to like chop off both of these leaves and maybe just like start over from the chonk. You guys, I'm genuinely so sad about that. That's like the saddest update to me right now is my philodendron mame and the thrips that ravaged it and the fact that it's like not really bouncing back. I'm genuinely so sad about that. But anyway, let's move on. I'll have to address that at another point because I just can't. Okay. Here's our Christmas tree. It's honestly a little bit rough because our kids keep on like pulling the lights off and taking off the ornaments. So we've just sort of accepted the fact that like this tree is not going to be super beautiful, and that's okay. At least it's a tree. We got it. We actually went and chopped a tree down at a Christmas tree farm as a family, and that was fun. But I did, yeah, as I mentioned before, I had to move a few of the plants that I had hanging up here to accommodate the tree, but I still have my Hoya obovata hanging up here, which that needs to be watered. Hang on. Very badly needs to be watered. Look at how wrinkly that is. Girly. But yeah, this plant has not really been growing for me again. This is another plant. It's like the Hoya Crimson Queen. It like will put off some growth all at the same time, like several growth points, and then it just like stops. And it doesn't do anything forever. So I'm gonna go water this really fast before I forget. Okay, but other plants in this corner. My Alocasia Black Velvet is definitely going dormant as well. It's just like pretty much stopped growing, and it had a few leaves look weird. It's had this one little growth point for ages and it just hasn't done anything. So I'm just hoping that it's a dormancy thing. And then over here, yeah, my Aglaonema Maria has not been doing well, like at all, which is a little bit frustrating, but it's fine. My Syngonium Albo actually looks quite fun. It has like this one stem right here that I'm gonna need to chop and prop probably because, you know, we all know how much I love when Syngonium go off and go a little bit nuts. But in general, I mean, it's got quite a bit of new growth, and I very recently brought it in this corner. I mean, yeah, it's right next to a west-facing window, and it seems to like it. Like it's been growing pretty well. I like it in this basket, and yeah, I definitely prefer growing it more bushy, I think. And then up here is my fern leaf cactus. I think I'm gonna need to repot this maybe somewhat soon. I mean, look at how wild it is. I mean, it's beautiful, but wow. Right here is some new growth that just like shot up, and it's like so funny. It's like alfalfa, look at that. And there's some new growth right here as well, which I'm excited about. It's doing well. And I think I need to water this plant too, actually. It's looking a little bit crispy. My Tradescantia chrysophylla, I very recently gave it a trim because it was, yeah, growing so long. This plant, I don't understand why it likes me so much. I feel like I do not treat it well enough for it to grow so well for me. Over here on the credenza, got a grow light here, and I actually recently rearranged a bunch of plants and kind of changed the way that this was looking. And I like it so far, but I don't know if you saw on my stories, and I think I mentioned earlier in this video, my Philodendron White Princess, I found thrips on it. And I'm so annoyed because this plant was literally just on my November favorites, and I was so happy with the fact that like it was actually growing well in spite of the thrips and the rest of my collection. But yeah, I had to chop off some of the leaves up here that were affected. But at least, I mean, we've still got like these really pretty top leaves right here that are super pink. And look at this. It looks like this leaf is going to have pink, green, and white on it. Do you see that? So like that's one happy thing is that, yeah, even though it has thrips, at least the new growth that's coming in is gonna be really cute. But yeah, I've obviously been treating this one as well and treated all of the plants here. But I have not seen thrips on any of the other plants. This is my Anthurium magnificum, which I think might also be due for a repot. Look at all of those roots. Oh my gosh. And it hasn't given me a new leaf in a long time, but it does have new growth right here, so we'll have to see. I recently moved this to this area too, just to see like if it likes it or not. I have no idea. Megapersia makoyana here has actually been doing quite well. I think it also needs to be watered. if you haven't noticed, a lot of these plants that are here downstairs are due for a watering, like it's kind of around their watering day. Yeah, there's some new growth right there. And yeah, it's generally been doing well. And obviously I've been checking it for thrips too, but I haven't seen any signs of it. These other plants, actually, oh, look at that. There's a new leaf on my Subabu pothos, which is really exciting. There's new growth here too. Oh, that's happy. I like just moved this year and this was in super rough shape after being outside over the summer, but oh my gosh, there's new growth here too. Okay, that's actually really happy. I recently repotted it and put it in this spot, and I was hoping that it would kind of take a turn for the better, and it looks like it likes it here. So that's super reassuring. This plant also needs to be watered. It does have some new growth though, which is good. This plant is in such low light, and it honestly like does so well in spite of that. Is it backwards? Okay, I was wondering, I was like, why on earth does this look so weird? By the way, this is my Tenanthe setosa. There we go, much better. Yeah, I was wondering, I was like, this looks weird for some reason, and that looks a lot better. Okay, well, oh, and if you're wondering about this giraffe and like why there's just like a giraffe here, me too. A few months ago, it just showed up on our house, and apparently our friends snuck it in and were wondering when we would notice it. So we need to sneak it back into our friend's house and see if they notice it. That was, yeah, that's kind of a random thing. I mean, I don't know. It gets kind of a vibe though, right? It's just kind of like chilling in the corner. I don't know. Okay, it is so dark in my dining room right now because it's just so gloomy outside. It's literally like 12:30 p.m. and it's just so gloomy. But we're working with what we've got. This is my Syndapsis pictus exotica, and I actually recently took some cuttings and gave them to my sister because she was in town for Thanksgiving and she wanted some cuttings of my plant, so this is one of the plants I gave her cuttings of. And even the fact that I literally just took cuttings, it looks so full. I mean, and it's got some new growth too. Look at that, winter growth. I'm so proud of you, plant. Oh, there's another new leaf. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy with it. I love having it right here, honestly, even though down here is a mess. We need to organize the kids' toys so badly, but I'm figuring we'll do that either just before Christmas or just after Christmas because we're gonna have to deal with all of their toys and stuff from Christmas anyways. But yeah, it's still really cute and I like having it here. Same with this plant right here. Obviously, oh my gosh, it's so dark right now, but there's new growth happening, which is good. This is my Maranta leuconura erythronura, which is basically like the red-veined Maranta. And yeah, I mean, it's so cute. Every time I see this right here, it makes me happy. And over here, I recently moved my variegated heartleaf philodendron here, and I don't feel like it's doing anything different yet. This is a south-facing window, so it was a little bit risky, but you know, it just wasn't growing in the west-facing window where it was at, so I was like, okay, let's just switch things up. As for like the other Hoya and stuff that are here, I think I need to repot my variegated Hoya compacta right here because it's drying out so fast. So I think it needs to be repotted. My Hoya polynera, I don't think it's really been doing anything new recently. For a while it was blooming like crazy, but it's kind of past that phase now. It's just pretty. This is like my hanging Alocasia michelitziana. It does have a new leaf right here. So cute. I still really like the way it looks, although I need to trim away some of these leaves that are dying off, and I think it's due for a water. Look at how limp it is. Yeah, I don't think there's anything new happening with these Hoya, but right here is my Hoya Fichii, and it does have one new leaf, so that's exciting. And my other Hoya compacta, like my regular green one, has new growth as well, which, I mean, I'm always really happy when this plant grows because I feel like it, you know, it will be stagnant for long periods of time, kind of like a lot of the other Hoya in my collection, until it takes off. And it's taking off right now, which is great. I recently took a cutting of my Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, and it is putting off a new leaf now, which I'm happy about. And okay, remember how like I took off a really big piece of it and then I put all of it, like the entire piece, into water, and I wasn't sure if it was gonna work? All right, let's look. Ta-da! Okay, here it is. It's still here, and we have roots. So very soon, actually I need to refill the water in here. Don't mind all the dirty dishes and the other plants that I just watered. And guys, I honestly love the way that it looks here. It will not be here forever. I do intend to pot it up with the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. But the nice part is, assuming that this transfers to the soil well, like, do you see like this big barren spot right here? It's gonna like cover that up, and that makes me really happy. So I hope that that works the way that I'm envisioning it. Yeah. And then my monstera, I think, also needs to be watered. Sorry. I don't think anything super exciting is happening here. There's a few new leaves. This is my Syndapsis pictosilveri, and there's a handful of new leaves that are looking really cute back here. But other than that, I mean, this plant grows a lot, but a lot of the leaves like towards the bottom end up being super small. So yeah, I feel like I find myself trimming this plant pretty frequently. And then back here, yeah, nothing really new or exciting is happening with these plants, but I'm probably gonna need to repot them pretty soon. These are all like a bunch of hanging philodendron. My micans has a few leaves that are dying off, which made me worried that it was thrips, but I checked and I don't see any, but I'm still like a little bit worried about it. But it could also be because it's right below a vent. So I find that in the winter time, like these plants just kind of generally, like they tolerate it pretty well, but they're not like super thrilled about it. Then these are some plants in my kitchen, but I really don't feel like anything super new or crazy is happening with them. There's like a little bit of new growth with this squamiferum that I potted up. So like I'm glad that it's doing okay. And over here, I mean, my rickrat cactus I feel like is always growing. So like that's good. There's some new growth right there. And yeah, this Hoya, it looks like it has some new leaves popping up right here, but I feel like they've been there like that for a long time, so I'm not convinced that it's actually going to happen. This is my Hoya Latifolia albomarginata, I believe. It used to be Macrophylla, but they changed the name. Again, like a lot of my Hoya are so hit or miss. It's like they'll do great for a while and then they like stop doing great. Well, that's my collection. That's what's going on. As I mentioned, we are definitely in the thick of it and I have a lot to get done, but just so much of it. Like I should probably make a to-do list and do another one of those plant chores videos where like I go through my to-do list, and like that way I don't get like quite as overwhelmed because at least it's all written out and I'm not going to forget something. So let me know if you want to see another one of those videos. I probably won't have time to do it until the new year and after all the holidays and crazy shenanigans are going to be happening around that time with family, and I mean, you guys know how it is. But I definitely, especially with the moss poles and some of that repotting of anthurium and some of the new plants that I got. Oh my goodness, I am so in need of figuring all of that out. But you know, it is what it is. It's okay. It's okay. But thank you so much for joining me and looking through most of the plants in my collection. I didn't hit like literally every single plant, but I feel like I did a pretty good cursory look over of like generally like how they're all doing. And I would love to hear how your plant collection is doing as we are moving into the winter time swiftly. Like, are they doing okay? Are they going dormant? Are you dealing with pests as well? Because I have like a little bit of new growth happening, but honestly, most of my plants are just either going dormant or dealing with pests or something along those lines, which is definitely like exhausting. And a lot of people have talked to me about like using beneficials in my collection, which I'm definitely considering doing, but obviously you can't use like systemics and beneficials in tandem really, because like the systemics can kill the beneficial insects that you bring into your home, which you do not want. And I've already introduced systemics and everything into all of my plants. So what I would want to do is completely eradicate the thrips using the systemics, but then bring in the beneficials later if I do decide to do that, and use that as like a maintenance thing where they're just keeping other pests from popping up, if that makes sense. But I don't even know for sure because beneficial insects can be really expensive, especially if you are like getting new beneficials like every 6 weeks or however frequently you're supposed to get them. And I don't know that I can really afford that. I mean, the systemics also cost money, but it's just like at least you can get a concentrate and dilute it with water, and that can make it go farther. And if anything, I can always just like revert to using just like dish soap and rubbing alcohol, and those also kill pests. They just like will only kill them on contact, not necessarily treat the tissue of the plant. You know what I mean? It's tricky. Plants are an expensive hobby, but I think that they are worth it. Anyways, that was like enough of a conclusion. I think I kind of rambled a lot there. But if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe. All those things are super helpful for my channel. And yeah, I hope that you have a wonderful and blessed day. Bye-bye.